Hello, hello. Good to see a few of you already in the chat. Everyone else getting comfortable, hopefully. Oh man, the market's been really boring, so I cannot promise much, but we'll go through it nevertheless. We'll try to make it entertaining together. Don versus Tagesschau, decided for Don. Yeah, I mean, if you're deciding between news and me, currently the news matter more than the TA does, I think. But yeah. Anyone here trade other markets looking to short the fuck out of Baltic container index pricing launching on CME? Wow. I don't think anyone else trades that. Sorry, bro. I mean, there's probably in the real life, there's some people that trade that, but I doubt that that's a pair crypto people look at. But yeah, before we start, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, which is as always FTX, formerly known as Blockfolio. They have an excellent app with no fees for anything mobile trading. It's really good. I recommend it to pretty much everyone that asks me about like which kind of platform they should get on when they first start out. So yeah, I like it. Links to that are in the description if you want to check it out. If not, that's also okay. Can we go to high time frame support or resistance already? Yeah, I mean it's agony, man. But I mean, I said this months ago that this market would turn into agony and it would not be fun. And it is not fun. It's just rangy and it's sideways and it's a bunch of stuff that is mostly boring, right? But that's just, you need that in the market sometimes. The last big macro consolidation we've had was after this deviation below 6K, right? So we wiped out all the bulls after the massive bull market, deviated below support and then came back up, right? And then we consolidated for a while. And the March crash actually was kept inside the macro consolidation, right? So March crash, COVID crash is in this wick here. But you can see how tight of a range this was, right? So range high here. It's actually really nice with a range high retest as well. And then you have the range low, which was 6K here. And that was a range of pretty much a year. And that was during or like after a massive bull run, right? And we've already had a consolidation of a year prior to that. So consolidated for a year, even though like this seems like a bigger range than this one, still like some sort of consolidation, had a wipeout and then consolidated for another year, right? So far, we only really in this for roughly a year, even less than a year. So what could easily happen, macro-wise, we get the shakeout and then we get another year of sideways if it plays out the same way again. Now, stuff doesn't have to repeat the same way, and I'm not really expecting it to just play out the same way that it did in the past. But this kind of stuff, I just want to show you that this kind of stuff can take longer than you think it can, because markets usually do a lengthy amounts of sideways and then a massive push up. Most of the positive price action in most markets is actually done in a few days during the year. So if you miss like the best days in a year, like the best 20 days or something, you might as well have missed the entire year. And I could see the same thing happen again, where we just go sideways. We have like a bunch of good days at some point, and yeah. So pretty rough to trade, besides just buying support, selling resistance, right? Anything that you want to be trading beyond resistance is just a bad bet. Right now, what we've done on the monthly time frame is we moved from monthly support into monthly resistance. I'm not really the biggest fan of this monthly resistance. I think if you're a massive bull, you can easily kind of say there's no real resistance. This is just like something in between, because you can see how price kind of just sliced through this on the way down. That means there's a chance that it doesn't really act as resistance on the way up. But yeah, it's still a range between 30 and 60k, and if you want to play that way, you can. For me, this is significant enough to be a little bit cautious, right? Monthly resistance, even if it's weak, is not to be trifled with. And then it's the same on the weekly, right? We're running into resistance, so it makes sense to be a little bit cautious. That said, I think if the global situation kind of betters itself, both in the stock market and in just concerning Russia and Ukraine, I think there's a good chance that we actually pop up towards 60k. It's just a question of, is that going to happen or not? So you kind of have to make a bet on macro, not necessarily on Bitcoin. I think in general, what we've been seeing is that Bitcoin has been performing well, even when the S&P has just done nothing, which is a good sign, right? That's what you want to be seeing. We've had Bitcoin weakness, even when the S&P was strong the entire way down. Then we hit macro support, which is monthly and weekly support, and that relationship flipped on its head, right? Now it's the inverse. So it's better to be long than to be short. And it's better, like if you want to be bullish something, it's better to be bullish Bitcoin than it is to be bullish stock market, in my opinion, until that changes again. So that's kind of my view on this macro situation. Best way to handle this, if I want to answer the title of the video, is just by playing support resistance, right? You just buy support, sell resistance over and over and over again, and you take time off, right? Because let's be real, all of us, and you can see this honestly on Twitter a lot, and I don't want to like shit talk other people on Twitter, but and to an extent this includes me, but you can kind of see that people aren't doing too well mentally right now. You see a bunch of people freaking out, posting about mental health issues, posting about just being angry generally. And you can see how people are doing really poorly. And I think the best thing that you can do for yourself, if you kind of slip into that, is take some time off. Enjoy the sideways after this kind of massive move to the upside. And this is just Bitcoin, right? We've had Bitcoin go up. We've had DeFi season 1. We've had DeFi season 2. We had NFT season 1. We have NFT season 2. We had a little bit of altcoin rallies with the layer 1s. A shitload of stuff happened in the last few years. And the best thing that you can do, in my mind, is getting ready for the next move, right? And could this have been the bottom, 33k? I think there's a chance. In general, it's monthly support, right? You do not discount like these kind of big supports ever. There's a chance that we've bottomed there. But even if that is the case, it's not necessarily too bad if you kind of just get on board at 50k or 55 or even above 60k. Because the difference between buying 44 and 60k, if we go to 90 or 100k, might seem large, but the trade setup is just less involves less risk, let's say that way, the moment you actually buy into strength. So that's why I don't mind. Like I bought 33k. I sold 38k. Obviously, price is higher now, but I don't really mind it too much because this market is taxing right now. And I mean, it makes sense to kind of recharge your energy to go at the next move, recharged and not in a state of, okay, I cannot deal with this. Hope that makes sense. I think that's like the advice no one's going to give you. But that most people need to hear. They just you need to get out of your headspace, out of the gambling addiction kind of thing, because we all get that during the bull runs. You all kind of get at least a little bit of this gambling thing, where you always want to be in a position, you always want to push it, and that's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes you need to get out of that headspace because it's easy to get lost in it. And I think most of the people that have been trading markets for a while know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I mean, if you've just recently joined, it's something that you need to be mindful of, to not slip into bad habits. And bad habits don't only include bad trading habits, because if you kind of start sacrificing your life for any of this and start falling into bad kind of daily routines or anything like that, you cannot do this long term, right? And it's one of the more difficult things when you work for yourself, to keep yourself in check, make sure you're healthy. So, yeah. Let me see what you guys have been writing. Can you show us how to draw a level on multi-time frames? Because it's so confusing when we draw a level at weekly and daily. So how you do this kind of stuff, and I can quickly go over it. You map out, like, so the most important time frame to me is the monthly time frame, even though you rarely get to use it, right? But you map out the levels that you have on the monthly time frame. This is your guiding light, right? And let's remove this one for a second. This is your guiding light. You know exactly that your monthly thesis is, this is range high, this is range low, right? But having this makes it really rough to get in, right? Because this monthly support is not small, right? It's from 37 all the way down to 35K. And it can take a month, right? You can trade through this for an entire month before the close actually comes in, right? So it's really, really hard to nail the bottom. It's nice to kind of see where you are in the macro range, or in general in the macro picture, but it doesn't really help you to find an entry, right? Because while you can just blindly buy the support, there's going to be better entries on lower time frames. So you have these mapped out, right? You know, okay, 35 to 37 is monthly support. Is there any kind of support that I have on lower time frames that in the same area? Or even oftentimes what I do is, because if you're looking for buys, right, you want to be buying, technically, at least that's what I do, you want to be buying below support, because that is actually just a discount, right? So for example, in this case, we traded into monthly support, and I was like, okay, I want to be looking for buys. I don't necessarily want to be filled at 37K. I want to be filled lower than the support that we're trading in. And then I look at the weekly, and what's the next kind of lower support that is still a really good support, and that's that one, right? And then you kind of look at the weekly and you're like, okay, we're trading in monthly support, like in the monthly support. Is there something that I can buy? Like, is there an actionable signal that I can get from the weekly? And then you see, okay, we're trading into the weekly support down here. And then you're like, okay, I like how we are on the macro picture on the monthly. We are at weekly support. Is there something that I can refine on the daily to get a perfect entry? And then you have a daily support down here, based off of pretty much the last consolidation before the fake down move towards up. And that's this range, right? And that was pretty much the bottom. And you can go further and further. For me, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can go on the 4 hour and then just try to zoom out, but this is too far for me already. So you kind of use that confluence that you get, right? You kind of use different time frames to kind of map the entire space. Because if you just look at the 4 hour, right? This is a massive trend to the downside, right? You continuously go down. There is no real indication that this is going to be the bottom, right? Like, why would this be the bottom? It's nowhere near any support, because you've run out of supports. You've just been trending down. And it's not really any kind of reaction that would make you think, okay, this is special, because, I mean, this could have been the bottom as well, right? But what you can do is combine all of it, look at the higher time frames, kind of get an idea where you are, and then this becomes very, very different, right? Because then you can see that the buying that is going on here is at high time frame support. So a bunch of richer dudes, really, because most of the poor guys just look at the 4 hour and just trade this, and like, it's crashing below support, it's going down again. And the people with bigger wallets, right, and bigger brains, they're going to be looking at, okay, is this cheap on the macro? And they're not going to do that on the 4-hour time frame. They might be looking for an entry on the 4-hour time frame, but they're going to be looking at it from like a macro picture. And that's the way it can help you. So you don't necessarily need to have the monthly support shown on the weekly time frame and on the daily, and then map out every single kind of time frame together, because that's only going to confuse you. So you kind of have to go by it step by step. Go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Make yourself like a picture that you can kind of understand, where it all makes sense, and then trade off of that. So hope that explains what you've been asking. That's how I use the time frames anyway. You can just trade your one time frame and that's fine. But I think you're kind of missing the bigger picture at that point. Okay. Could you see a test of 10K support ever again? I'd be surprised, but I mean, never in crypto. But I think if you ever get 14K again, that's where you go all in. And I would not want to be betting on 10K. I don't see the point. And I think 14K is very unrealistic. There's a good chance that even if we fail the support, we find like support somewhere lower. It's just going to be really difficult to buy because there's no technical support. This one stopped in the middle of nowhere as well, right? This February crash. So this could easily just bounce here, go back down, and then come back up without hitting the support. So yeah, I would not stick to, okay, I'm only going to buy at 10K. That seems crazy to me. That's a massive, massive discount, and that's too greedy, I think, but we'll see. Could you elaborate on how you do that daily support? You mean this one? So with a lot of this kind of like support resistance stuff, there's a lot of kind of freedom to it. There's no strict whatever rules, right? But what I usually look for is either the lowest closest, the highest closest, or consolidation, right? And given that in this case, you could have also drawn this, right? And been like, okay, this is the support. The problem with that is, and this is why like context matters, because this is fine to draw in itself, right? It's the lowest close. You can draw this and you can wait for this. The problem is you look at context and you see that there's 3 lows here that have not been spiked through. So if we retrace this entire move to the upside, you would think that you would have to trade lower than the support, quite a bit so, to kind of just take off all the stop losses, everyone that's positioned in the 30K range. I would expect to get completely rinsed at that point. So if I expected a complete full wipeout, I wouldn't have drawn this support, but I would have drawn this down here, but would have tried to bid much, much lower than the support is. So there's 2 supports that you can draw in this instance. I think this one's the more important one because if you look at this, right, you know exactly that there's a bunch of people that are trying to make this into, like, to keep the uptrend going, right? Because this is a low. You could still argue that there's a high, there's a low, there's a higher high. And then there's going to be people that are obviously going to step in to kind of try to defend the low that was made here, to argue that this is still an uptrend, right? And this is just how crypto works. You get a bunch of rich dudes that like legitimately just try to make this happen. And I mean, sometimes they do it, sometimes they fail. But yeah, so for me, the context just made me look at the consolidation higher up instead of the low. But you can draw the low as well. The fact that this is so close to all of these lows just made it less attractive. And then the fact that, yeah, you had a higher high here makes it more attractive to kind of look for a higher low. Even if this fails, right? Even if this fizzles out and starts dropping again, these kind of supports usually tend to produce a bounce. And then especially with the weekly and monthly being at support, right? So that's why I do it this way. But you can, it's obviously arguable. All of this stuff is, it comes with experience, and it's not 100% accurate all the time. In general, on the lower time frames, as in on the daily right now, I think, I mean, this is very obviously an inverse head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it, right? And I think this is very, very similar to what we've had here. I can zoom in if you want to see it better. So we had like this inverse head and shoulders here as well. And then we had a rally, and then the March crash came in, right? And that's kind of what I could see this turn into if the Russia-Ukraine situation eases up. I think at that point, we would easily go to 50K, and then we're still in the range. And there's still a good chance that we actually just start meandering downwards again. It's basically, at this point, a bunch of people are shorting because they see World War III coming, and they're easy squeeze targets if we're not getting any kind of bad news. The question is, are we going to have momentum afterwards, right? And I don't know the answer. I think in general, you don't want to necessarily fade this, but it's not necessarily like a good risk-reward bet right here anyway. The interesting part about all of it is that this time around, excuse the jumping around, this time around, for the first time in a long time, altcoins have been doing really, really poorly, while Bitcoin has been doing decently well, which to me kind of shows that we have a lot less speculation going on. And this is also supported by the fact that the cryptocurrency Reddits and everything have seen massively reduced interest. So like month to month, there's been like a 20, 30, 40% loss in interest. And the meme coins have been dying out, and pretty much retail has been getting their shit kicked in, right? Which is a good sign if you want to see this cycle continue, because what you need to do is get the froth out of the market without killing the market structure. And so far, market structure in this case is okay still. It's going sideways, so that's not a bad thing. And like I said, we've been seeing a wipeout on the altcoins, which kind of kills the froth. Is 30K the new 6K? I think so, yeah. But last time we broke 6K, right? That was because of fundamental reasons. There was a massive war going on between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and a hash war, everything. Just everything was going pretty poorly back then. And that led to this kind of complete and utter capitulation, liquidation event, whatever. That was a dark timeline back then. Like, people were legitimately depressed. That doesn't have to happen again. Like, if you're expecting this to one-to-one play out the same way again, there's a good chance you get disappointed. It's just good to know that stuff like that can happen. Not, okay, this has to happen. I see a bunch of people that have like targets in their mind that they refuse to deviate from, which, I mean, is fine, I guess. The problem is, if the market moves in a different way than you expect, you're stuck in a shit position and you don't know what to do. Don't forget to like the live, guys. It'll help keeping it. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So yeah, that's that. I think that might have been helpful. Might have not been. Who knows? I've been getting a bunch of comments and questions about ETH. Funny thing is, ETH has not been doing anything, really. It's just been going sideways. Right now, you could argue that there's like a trend line going on. And I think it makes sense to be bullish on ETH again, relative to Bitcoin, if we start trading back above 0.077. Right now, it's just in the middle of nowhere. And if this fails, I could see it go quite low. So I'm not too excited about ETH, but there's potential there, and I like the stuff you can do with ETH, right? ETH has been the driver of a lot of the narratives, both the NFT stuff and the DeFi stuff. So ETH has been like in the conversation a lot, and I wouldn't want to necessarily just be fundamentally bearish on it. It's just chart wise, it's uninteresting below 0.077, because what happened basically is the same thing that happened with Bitcoin, is a shakeout above resistance and then a nasty breakdown, right? So yeah, if you're like massively bullish on ETH, you could take a bet on this trend line kind of holding, and I think that's fine. And you want to take that bet through resistance. Do it if you want to. For me, I have ETH exposure with my NFTs, and I'm kind of lucky that they're not necessarily responding to ETH going up too much. So I'm just making money while ETH is going up. But yeah, NFT's been slow as well, depending on what you've kind of been having. All the more expensive ones have been doing well. All the cheap ones have been doing poorly, which, I mean, not a surprise, to be honest. It's something that I've been talking about a bunch. The lower price stuff is oftentimes actually worse trade than the higher price stuff, which makes entering the NFT space quite difficult. And I hope that changes with Coinbase getting into the mix. But the stuff that they're adding to their NFT platform is questionable at best. And yeah, ETHUSD trading into resistance right now. The good point about this, or the good part about it, is that this is the second time we've been testing this resistance, and it's we tested this last week, had a nasty rejection, and we're now testing it again. That is usually a good sign. It's the same that we've had with the support, right? I mentioned that this support was getting really shitty the more times we tested it. If we kind of get stuck at 3K and do the same thing in reverse, I would expect it to break to the upside. And then upside target is obviously 4K, which would be really nice. Retail is sick of losing money. Yeah, I mean, retail has just been getting hammered. Not unsurprisingly, really, right? It's just how retail trades. Retail, almost by definition, gets into stuff late. Bitcoin pumping, yeah, it's going up a little. So yeah. Would you rather have ETH or Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin seems like the clearer setup. If I had to take a trade, and this is something I've been saying on Monday, actually on Weekly Open, while we're trading down here, I would take the Bitcoin long trade, and I would still do that. But I'm glad I just don't have to. I'm actually just enjoying my life. Going on dates, climbing a lot again, working out, getting my life back together, basically. And it's good. It's good. Having this kind of time is nice. And I'm taking advantage of it. So obviously you have to flip that switch really fast once it actually starts going again. But if you're recharged for it, you're going to have much more fun than when you're kind of over it. Because there is something like bull market fatigue. If the bull market keeps on going, at some point, you're just too exhausted. So yeah, that's that. That's Bitcoin and ETH. With regards to the other altcoins, I have a position in XTC, and I mean, that just looks rather rough on the Bitcoin pair. Good thing is, I have it, and I'm making money on the USD pair, which I would otherwise have in USD. So that's something. But yeah, obviously not looking too pretty on the Bitcoin pair. But yeah, up quite a bit actually on the USD pair, roughly 30% or almost 30%. It's just the Bitcoin pair pretty much. I bought it, it went up, and it's basically almost back where I bought it from. So we'll see how that goes. Not too excited anymore. just based on you had a bunch of positive news coming in, and this is something that I always look at. You had a bunch of positive news coming in, and it didn't do anything to price, which makes me think, okay, if positive news don't push price upwards, there's a good chance people are selling into it, right? And it's the same with negative news that don't lead to anything. And it's something we've had with Bitcoin at the lows, didn't lead to a drop, and then price goes up, right? It's one of the better indicators of strength. Positive news that get faded, bad sign. Negative news that get faded, good sign. Have you bought more XTC or anything else like XRP? No and no. I've really considered buying XRP a couple times. The only reason why I haven't bought it, and I might still buy XRP, is because everything else looked like shit. But something seems to be going on with XRP. I'd hate to miss out on the pump. So I've been sitting here considering it. I could see myself take this trade still. I think I mentioned this last stream as well. So kind of like a trade like this, or even all the way up here, right? So like this kind of trade, I don't mind taking. The risk reward is massive, even if you take it from here. Chances of this playing out are, I think, like 1 to 10 maybe, or like between 1 to 5 and 1 to 10, which makes this trade a decent one, right? It's just the question of how long is it gonna take to play out, if it actually plays out, and is my money better spent elsewhere? But yeah, I'm still considering XRP. It's one of the ones that I'm most interested in, as stupid as it sounds, because I fundamentally I don't like XRP. I just think there's a chance that we get positive news on the lawsuit front, and this is why we've been having this kind of counter trend push up, because everything else has been dumping, right? Or almost everything else has been dumping, while XRP has shown massive strength, and there's a good chance that people just know something. Obviously, could be untrue, whatever. But I think there's a setup to be had in here. I just haven't quite pulled the trigger yet. And with XTC, I'm not gonna buy more. I bought a bunch, and I usually don't buy into positions that don't do what I want them to. And I wanted XTC to push up. The setup isn't invalidated yet. It's just getting rough. So I'm looking at it. I'll reevaluate it next week, because yeah, you have a high here, you have a low high here, and if this rounds out, it starts getting scary, and then maybe it does something like this, and I don't want to be stuck in this part, right? I want to be buying this part somewhere. So a little bit more on the cautious side on that, but so far I haven't changed anything. And like I said, lucky to be up in USD, because Bitcoin mooned so much. How's the love life done? I mean, good. It's been fun. It's been fun. Confusing, but fun. The modern dating life is something else, gotta tell you. Don, what's your favorite time range for Ichimoku clouds? I don't use it, so I can't tell you. If you wanna, like, if you have any questions regarding that, you should ask Josh from Weekly Open. But yeah, I can't tell you anything about it. Let's keep it clear that he brought up the dating topic. Oh man, I mean, the market's been boring as fuck. I might as well talk about real life. It's not my fault. And I only mention it. You guys keep pushing it. So yeah, switching girls like altcoins. No. I mean, I did, but not anymore. So yeah, let me see. Is it more painful to see crypto rip when you are not on board, or dump while you are? For me, it's more painful to dump when I'm on board, because I'm pretty agnostic to it all. Like, and this is something that you guys have to understand if you like want to take any of my advice seriously. even though you really shouldn't. Like, you should just think, okay, does this make sense to me? And then reevaluate yourself. But if you like watch this stuff, you have to kind of know where I'm coming from. And for me, like, I'm not the biggest crypto bull. I don't really like. I think it's probably gonna go up just based on the nature of it. I think Bitcoin's better than gold, and Bitcoin is quite a bit smaller than gold. So I think there's quite a bit of room to go. But I think most of these projects suck. I think even Bitcoin is quite the risky bet, even though everyone else is going to tell you something different. So for me, I'm in this to kind of make more money. I'm not in this to make more Bitcoin. I'm not in this to make more ETH. I'm in it to make some money, right? So if I lose money, that's obviously going to be painful, because my goal is not to catch every move, but just overall make money. And if your goal is to make more Bitcoin, you should trade a little bit differently, right? Because then you cannot afford to miss out on the lows, and you can be much more lenient on dips and stuff, because you can just hold through it, because you want to have as much as possible. So if it goes down, you can just buy more. For me, it's a little bit different. I don't really invest in this stuff anymore. I just trade. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. But yeah, I know that that's a very unpopular kind of opinion in the space, and I'm like, I don't need anyone to agree with me on that. It's over the years, the problem that I've had in this space is that, the real innovation that I've been seeing is in scams, and people get taken advantage of left and right, and there's some really cool stuff that is starting to show up, but it's not convinced me yet. But it might change. It might change. And it's one of the more interesting places to be anyway, both price action wise and potential wise. I just think we've kind of moved in a little bit of a weird direction in the last few years. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm coming from. But it's not something that you have to copy paste, because I think there's a lot of potential in here, and there's a good chance that it's still 10x's Bitcoin, that is. But yeah, it's just something that I've kind of come to terms with, that it's really hard for me to keep an investment in this space going. I'm more than happy to take trades. Investment wise, it's really difficult for me. Love is meant to be confusing. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I like it. I like it simple. Are you talking about NFTs on dates, Don? Jesus Christ, no. I do not mention crypto to anyone. I mean, I talk, like, not on the first date anyway. I talk about what I do at some point, but fuck no, I would never mention crypto on the first date. Don, do you have any physical gold holdings? No, I found gold really stupid. Like, gold is just stupid to me. If I had any physical gold holdings, I would probably sell it and buy Bitcoin with it and hold that instead. It's just the problem that I have with holding gold, with holding Bitcoin, is that I find gold so stupid, and I find the use case of Bitcoin that is most kind of promising is just overtaking gold, just kind of taking the place of gold. And given that I find that the use case of gold, so stupid, it's really difficult to kind of come to terms with that Bitcoin. Is pretty weird in that regard. So, like, if I had to kind of be a maxi of something, I'd probably try to be a maxi of something else, because I don't like the gold use case. Not a fan. Now with Lightning and everything getting a little bit more traction, and Bitcoin has a bunch of use cases really, but the gold one has always been the one that kind of convinced me the most. And there's no point in time where I would rather have gold over Bitcoin. I think he's been around since 2017. Do we go through the history again? Do you guys want to hear my story again? I've told this story a bunch of times already. I'm not entirely sure. I can go like give a quick rundown, or I can talk about it for like 5 minutes. Whatever you guys prefer. Let me know. Um, Jesus. Okay, a bunch of people want to know. That was quick. So my brother, when I was really young, my brother went to like an IT school basically, and had a bunch of really nerdy friends, and was pretty much in like the inner circles of a bunch of IT stuff, right? And they told him about Bitcoin when it wasn't really trading on any exchanges, right? At roughly $1, right? So they told him about it. He was interested. He started mining it on his CPU back then. Made a couple Bitcoin mining it. And I mean, just knowing, if you know something about Bitcoin, remembering back that you could actually mine it with like a CPU instead of a GPU. That's how far back this is, right? So like was trading at $1 or something around that. And then he kind of came to me and was like, hey, dude, this is really interesting. Let's buy some of it, right? At $1. I was like, sure. I mean, you know better than I do. And internet money sounds fine. So like that sounds like a decent investment. And I was young back then. And we both grew up pretty poor, like my entire family did. So we went to my mom, said, okay, we have like, we saved up 50 euros each. We want to put it into this. But the only way that we found to buy it back then was with credit card. And she said she's not going to give us the credit card for it. So we kind of were like, okay, I mean, my brother's mining anyway. And I wasn't really, like, I didn't really understand the concept. So I was like, okay, fuck it. And then it went, I mean, you cannot see it, like it's before 2012. But yeah, it went on a run to $1,000, right? My brother lost his hard drive with the Bitcoin on it. He gave up on it because he was so tilted from it all, just knowing that he could have bought like 50 and I could have bought 50 and went to like 1,000. And so he was like, he gave up on it. And I was watching this and I was like, shit, I should have bought, but I didn't really have too many regrets. I was just like, okay, I'm going to buy it the next time I think it's cheap. And then it dropped. And I bought some like roughly in the $300 to $400 range to actually buy Dogecoin with. So I was like, Bitcoin, really nice, internet money, but I want to invest in memes. And I mean, crypto sounds fun. Memes sound even better. Combine the two, Dogecoin's the best investment I can make. So I bought a bunch of Dogecoin when we were like in this range, or maybe even down here. I don't quite remember. Would have to go through my accounts to check it. So I bought Dogecoin. Dogecoin actually mega mooned on the Bitcoin pair while Bitcoin was mooning. So I made a bunch on that and then was hooked ever since, basically. So that's my story. And my brother's story. His one is filled with more regret than mine. But yeah, that's kind of the history of it all. And then I went full time, basically at 3K-ish, or like 1.7 to 3K, somewhere in here. I went full time because I was like, I have enough money saved up to be able to support myself for quite a while. And I never looked back. Are your brothers also full-time traders? No, they have normal jobs. So yeah, that's that. That's my story. So I've been around for a little bit longer than 2017, but I did indeed I went full time 17. So yeah, you forgot your on-shares part. I mean, I could have gone on and on and on. Like I traded Dogecoin, sold Dogecoin, went into on-shares, which is later rebranded to Neo, took the ride up, traded a bunch of stuff left and right, and yeah. But I was just asked about the origin, and the origin story goes all the way to till I went full time back in 17. So yeah, that's that for the people interested. And for me, it always, I mean, if you listen to the story, me investing into memes and stuff, like this was never meant to be this like serious kind of world changing thing for me. It was always just taking advantage of trends, right? That's how this has been. I would love if Bitcoin actually changed the world for the better. I'm just not sure that's going to happen. And then made that epic 2017 blow off topic blog post. Yeah, that was good times, good times. For the people that don't know, like I wrote like a Medium article at the top, basically saying, or like not at the top, but at like 10 or 11K down here, that the bear market had only begun. And then we dropped and altcoins went down 95%. Good times. When did you go into ETH? I mean, I didn't like I skipped ETH for the most part and went into more Dechen shitcoins. I mean, I went basically when ETH was going off, I was in Doge, and that was doing fine. Not as well as ETH, but fine enough. Yeah. And I mean, I bought a bunch of ETH at $80 during the bear market, but I sold that relatively soon. Like I bought it at 80 and sold it at 200, 300, I think, 280. I don't know. But that was with like massive leverage. That was actually one of my bigger trades in my career. That could have gone wrong, but I had a massive conviction. Like somewhere down in like the 85 range, like legitimately the bottom of the bottom. And then I took it all the way towards like almost 300. And then I sold it. And that was with like stupid leverage. I would never do that again. That was way too much of my net worth. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that kind of stuff is too risky. Like if you're betting uncomfortable sizes, and if you get it wrong, then you can quickly slip off. I've seen many people do it. So I've kind of like, whenever I get that urge to bet big, I usually am right, like almost all the time. It's just, you don't want to, like back in the day, I acted on that. And I was lucky that I wasn't massively wrong. Nowadays, I act on it, but in smaller size, because I know that if something goes wrong, and if you're wrong, you just need to be wrong once or twice, be caught off guard, and then stuff can snowball real fast. So yeah. Best top signal thus far is your neighbors asking about IOTA. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my family's asked me about NFTs, so maybe that's the top signal in itself. But who knows? Enough with the history stuff. I don't know if anyone even, like, I know a few of you care, but I don't know if the masses care. But yeah, it's a pretty boring market, so I might as well talk about stuff like that. In general, I think it's gonna get really interesting around 46K. If we can smash through there, the road is open towards 60K, and I think people are going to go nuts if you go back to 60K. Bull market back on, only to realize that this is still a range. Could easily just do this over and over and over again. How stupid is that? Stupid? 5x? Yeah, it was like between 5 and 10x or something. Obviously not my entire net worth, but pretty much everything that I had on BitMEX at the time, which was quite a bit, 5 to 10x leverage. I was sweating bullets back then. But yeah, that was good. The only reason why I closed it and didn't keep it for like longer was that funding got really expensive. If we go to 60K, will XRP outperform then, or just dump? So the thing with XRP is that it's a news-driven thing, right? So if Bitcoin goes to 60K in the current landscape, there's a good chance that the altcoins are going to be outperformed by Bitcoin, right? The exception is stuff that is driven by news, right? So like I said, the only kind of narrative that we want to be playing on XRP is that they win the lawsuit against the SEC. If they do, this shit is gonna go up no matter what Bitcoin does, right? And there's a good chance that if they win, even if Bitcoin is dropping, Bitcoin is gonna go up with XRP because it's such a major event. So my answer to your question would be depending on if there's any news or not on that front. Because if Bitcoin goes to 60K and there's no news on the XRP front, it's gonna just bleed out again. If there is, different story. So like I could easily tell you, okay, this is just if as long as it holds this and that level, it's gonna go up or outperform, but that's not necessarily the case. The only kind of reason why I'm even looking at XRP is because I think there could be a catalyst of sorts, and XRP is one of the ones where even the bigger guys are gonna get FOMO because they know how big the XRP moves can be, and so I think there could be some room if there's any positive news, which I think there should be at some point. So that's that. Don, your tax-related tweet was very touching. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just the way I think, I guess. I mean, I'm going to complain about the German tax system day and night to everyone that wants to hear it, but I'm still going to pay it, you know? Even though it fucking hurts getting your money cut in half, basically. So yeah. An asset like Bitcoin cannot range for more than a year. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, what are you talking about? This is a year, and this is more than a year. And what else besides a range is this? I can show it to you again, like I showed you earlier in the stream. This did not move for 396 days. It had like a breakdown of sorts, but like this is a range, and it's more than a year. And then you look back through history, and this is a range, and it's almost a year. And if you add this part to it, where it went basically macro sideways, it's 600 days. Assets like Bitcoin can range for more than a year. What kind of argument is that when we've seen it happen so many times? It's almost ranged for a year now. It's right now, it's very close to ranging for a year. Well, I mean, whatever floats your boat. However you want to describe this, fine by me. Whatever. I'm not gonna argue. Do you think there's 17 Bitcoin Dino coins are dead like Bitcoin Cash, BSV? Yes, I think so. I think they're gonna get like there might be an exit pump, but they're dead in my eyes. So yeah, I mean, you might be thinking, okay, why would they never come back up again, right? And actually, let me quickly show you why. How did this work again? The last time I've done this is so long ago. There's like this. Let me actually. Let me quickly Google this. Yeah, this is the one. So 2013, right? August, whatever. We're just gonna take a random one. This was the top 100, or I mean, there wasn't really that much of coins, right? But this 2013, right? So quite a bit into Bitcoin's journey. Bitcoin was trading at $100, Litecoin at 3, then XRP, and then Namecoin. You ever heard of Namecoin? Probably, like if you've been around, maybe, but most of you guys have not. Any of these coins, have you heard of any of these coins besides XRP, Litecoin, and Bitcoin? NovaCoin, PrimeCoin, TerraCoin, DevCoin, DigitalCoin, FryCoin, WorldCoin, any of these? I don't think so. I think, and if you have, it's because other people have, like, or if because I've mentioned them, right? Or if like you've heard someone else make the same argument that I have. Okay, so 3 of the 50, right? And then you go 2014 and you go through the list, right? Now it gets a little bit more like familiar. Bitcoin, Litecoin, XRP, we know these. Peercoin, not really. Next, I mean, if you've been around in 2017, yes, but it's not really around too much anymore. Dogecoin shows up. We do know that. Dash, we also know. And then there's a bunch of stuff that no one knows, right? Different from the stuff that was around 2013. Still a bunch of stuff that no one knows. Why is that? Because all of these coins from 13 and 14 have disappeared, right? So now we go to 2015, a year later, and there's a little bit more of the stuff that we're used to, right? So, I mean, XLM, we've heard before, BitShares. There's a bunch of the stuff that, like, you know, but then you go out of the top 20, different stuff than from the years prior, but all of these coins have also disappeared, right? And then you go and do this for every single year, and you realize the trend, right? There's stuff that there's coins that come up and then they disappear, right? And that is the end of almost all crypto. You have right now, right? And then we can go and let me actually quickly open it up again. We have right now like what, like 2,000 coins? 2,000 coins, 20,000 I wanted to say. We have 17,000 coins. Of those, how many are actually doing anything? And then how many of these will still be around in 5 years? And I can tell you that it's just gonna be like, maybe you're gonna see like the top 20 in 5 years. But yeah, the older these coins get, the more likely they are to disappear. A few exceptions have been Litecoin, that's been sticking around, but you can see how it's a market cap 20 right now, right? We looked at it 2013 and it was the second one, right? So it's already moving down the list, and that's pretty much the same for all of these. So if you're asking me, like, what do you think the end result for any of these coins really is, besides maybe Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, maybe like a handful of others, I'm going to tell you that they're gonna just disappear like the coins that did in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's just the history of how this stuff works, right? You make a coin, it does well, it has its hype cycle, someone else makes a coin that's better. Your coin, why would you, and this is the stuff that like people don't really understand with crypto, is there's no real reason to own a coin when there's another coin that does it better, right? And it's easy to abandon the coin too, because really, like, I mean, what's keeping you there? It's not like there's any physical kind of requirement or like anything that's keeping you bound to the coin. You can just migrate to another one. So yeah, I think Bitcoin Cash is going to disappear, very likely. I think BSV, same story. I think most of this list, and I mean, you can see like a bunch of stuff's already delisted. This is why I keep this list, because it's going to be read like this for, like, it's going to turn more and more like this, where coin gets delisted or whatever over time. It's just how this place works. You shift from one coin to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So yeah, people are going to disagree with that, but so far I've not been wrong. I've been saying it since I've joined this space. That was obvious to me from the get-go. I don't know why people have such an issue with understanding how this works. Because it's code, right? It's open source code. You can just take it, make a next coin that's better, and start the cycle from the beginning. It's so easy. What happened to Nano? I mean, it's just delisted on the exchange that I was looking at it. It's not like it's delisted in general. Nano's still around, but not trading nicely. Looking pretty rough. There you go. That's kind of Can you zoom in on the EOS line from 2020? What do you mean? You mean these ones? Back then I was making the argument that this was the bearish retest. And it turns out it was. But yeah, this is just trading like garbage. You don't need to trade this. And I mean, it's gonna have its ups and downs, but people are gonna just take any liquidity that they can get to sell into it. Obviously, if you're still holding it, you're trying to get out of it. It's not like people are expecting EOS to make new all-time highs. And the thing is, what you have to understand, right? The devs from projects like this, they can make more money just making a new project. So why would they stick around in a project that, like, if they put in work, and I mean, I'm not saying this is the case for EOS because I don't want to have the backholders of EOS go after me, but the devs of these kind of projects, right? They get a shitload of money to work on code. Coders are always in crypto coders are always in short supply. So what they can just do is just make a new coin, right? And then, because the only reason or the only kind of upside to them pushing stuff on like older coins is to get the backholders out, right? There's a bunch of community members that have a shitload of EOS, and they obviously want to sell, right? So the only kind of thing that results from them putting in work is that the backholders get an exit. So why even work on it if you can just move on to the next project? Maybe even copy 95% of the code, and then you have it so that you can just start the cycle all over again. It's much more money that way, and you don't have to deal with the people that have been burned and fucking hate your guts, because you can make a new thing and make an incentive structure. Everyone's happy with you because everyone's making money, and then you can start it all over again. So yeah, I mean, this is just how this stuff works. And I think most of the people that don't understand it or like try to argue otherwise are delusional in my mind. Copy Bitcoin code, put a dog picture on it and make bank. I mean, that's how it started with, that's how Dogecoin, that's basically Dogecoin, right? That's how Dogecoin started. And it wasn't even meant as anything but that. That's kind of the funny part. Doge at least was honest about it all. But yeah, I mean, those are the hard questions that you have to ask yourself, right? Is my project going to stick around? And the answer is most likely no. But it doesn't mean it cannot go up for a year or two or three. You just have to, like when you're trading the altcoins, you just have to jump from project to project to project, because whenever something new comes around, when something new comes around, there's no history of, like, there's no backholders, no nothing. So they can go up easy. In comparison to the old stuff, that, I mean, realistically, it's just going to have a hard time, right? Are you going to be able to excite people to buy Bitcoin Cash? The only way that you could do that is by kind of making Bitcoin look illegitimate. And I don't think that's something that you can do anymore. And it's even harder with other coins, right? Dogecoin has been in the top 10 for many years. I wonder if that'll die out. Dogecoin actually dropped out of the top 10 for a long time. Like, it was actually underperforming a lot during this move down. And then Elon just bought a bunch and catapulted, like made it into, like kind of moved it into the mainstream. And it became like a symbol of sorts. So I think Dogecoin, without the help of Elon Musk and without the help of like kind of the Robin Hood push, would have probably remained in a range from 15 to 100 sats until it eventually would have bled out. But given Elon bought and pushed it hard, we had this massive pump. Problem is, I think, like even with Dogecoin, right? If it goes to 200, maybe we get a nice bounce. I think at 100, we're going to get a big bounce, right? from 100 to 200, I could easily see that. But I think this just kind of kills the Dogecoin cycle. I'm not going to be the guy picking it up at 15 sats again, like I've done for years. For me, this is done. This is what you want to see as someone that holds it, right, from like way back. But for me, the meme has played out. What can top Elon Musk completely throwing his entire weight behind Dogecoin? I don't think anything can top it, really. And inflation-wise, Dogecoin is massively inflationary, not really interesting. As a meme, it's funny and all, but I think the meme has kind of reached the pinnacle of what it can reach. Memes have a shelf life as well, and I think Dogecoin has hit it. So yeah, all your trades are gold, but the best one was February 19 buying ETH at $80. That was epic for me. Yeah, good shit, man. Good shit. I mean, it wasn't quite $80, but close enough. Yeah, that was fun times. So yeah, I think that's more than plenty. The end of the stream got a little bit depressing. Hope that's okay. It's what sideways markets do to you, man. It's bad. And I'm not saying the altcoins are gonna go down 90% from here. I mean, they will eventually. It doesn't, but I don't think it has to be like right now. It's just something that you should think about, I think, because it's so easy to get lost in all the hype talk, and people are like, this is the next big thing. But what they really mean is that's the next big thing to be hyped, and then they sell into the hype. And anyone smart in crypto would do that. We've seen it over the years that it's not necessarily the best strategy, just buy and hold altcoins for the long run, at least in comparison to Bitcoin. So yeah, that's that. That's my opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. And I don't think my opinion is 100% the truth always. It's just how I see things. So yeah, thought I'd share that. Appreciate you guys coming by. As always, a lot of fun to kind of have a chat, even when the market's boring. And yeah, big shout out to FTX for sponsoring the show. They let me say anything, which I appreciate. So yeah, they've supported us through the bull and the bear markets. So appreciate that. And yeah, their links are in the description if you want to check them out. If not, like I said at the beginning of the show, that's also okay. Just appreciate you guys coming by, and we'll see each other on, I think, tomorrow actually, because I have like Cred is flying on Friday and I have friends over, so it might actually be a casual Friday tomorrow morning or something, or we might record something. So yeah, there might be something coming out tomorrow. Not entirely sure, but if you're looking for like a Friday stream, that's not gonna be coming because, like I said, I have guests and Cred is flying. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. See you guys next time. Bye bye.